Mr. Smith went to the museum. Mr. Smith did not understand the artwork he saw. He found it to be dull and utterly pointless. Suddenly, Mr. Atlast showed up with a smirk. Mr. Smith wondered what Mr. Atlast was snickering about. Mr. Atlast proudly introduced Mercury. Mr. Smith found no empathy for Mr. Atlast's bracelet, but it was better than boredom. Therefore, Mr. Smith wore the Mercury bracelet and continued his visit in the museum. But little did he know what the Mercury bracelet was capable of. Thanks to Mr. Bluetooth, Mr. Smith's visit of the museum was tracked. Mr. Bluetooth registered Mr. Smith's trail at location points, who were then connected to create the outline of a form that would be Mr. Smith's artwork, and his time spent in the museum. He isn't quite fond of museums, as we can see, but he wasn't the only one to be tracked. Other visitors had also worn the Mercury bracelet, and little did they know that they were part of a unique art experience, creating a sort of galaxy. When they gave back their Mercury bracelet to Mr. Atlast, they saw their own artwork on Mr. Atlast's website. But that's not all. Mr. Smith can also modify form and color. Although purple and orange is quite in bad taste, Mr. Smith, but a visitor's choice is personal, and the Atlast Gallery is there to prove that. Museums can also find great utility in the Mercury bracelet. How, you may ask? Well, simply by recording on a database statistics of all the registered visits in the museum. An interesting study case, isn't it, Mr. Smith? The Mercury bracelet has no boundaries, and it can be used in a larger scale, with the ultimate goal to create one massive and unique collective artwork. Quite charming, isn't it, Mr. Smith? And then, Mr. Dupont went to the museum.